Here's Corin.
Just showing up here and have a little meeting with Nathan and Luca. Look at that art. Oh, yeah. And on to the interview. Recording. What's up, y'all? Hanging out with my man Nathan here. Nathan, I like to start things by finding out. By what was the name that your parents gave you at birth?
Hey, it's Nathan.
Okay.
Yeah.
And did you have like any kind of like little nickname or anything like that? Your parents,
Nate.
like
Nate,
a Bubby
Nathan.
or a.
No, it wasn't anything like that. They always like to read this book to me called Nate the Great, and then so
I know
sometimes
that
Nate
book.
the Great. Yeah. That's about the only one that my parents really had for me.
Yeah, Nate's actually a nice short version of Nathan. Like my birth name is Joseph, and Joey. I really don't like it. It's actually it's a baby kangaroo as well. But my brother-in-law, my ex-brother-in-law, is from Liverpool. And when he says Joey, it sounds great. So what, Joey, what's up, mate? And I'm like, that sounds good. Okay, you can call me Joey, but no one else. So where'd you grow up? Where were you born?
So I was born in D.C. and lived
In
there.
D.C., in the District of Columbia, the
District
sovereign
of
territory of the District of Columbia.
Taxation without representation all the way. Yeah.
It feels like that no matter where you are, kind of. You
Yeah.
know, but
Yeah. No, I was born in D.C. Lived there for like the first.
inside the loop.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Crystal City. I guess it's not. No. I was born in D.C. and then moved to Crystal City.
Well, I mean, without getting too personal or anything like that. Were your parents in politics or anything like that, or just
No.
they just happened to live in the Beltway?
They just lived there. My dad worked for a tire company.
Oh, okay.
And my mom was, working whatever secretary job she could find. And
So would you have considered yourself growing up middle class, lower middle class, somewhere around there?
I'd say solidly, middle class.
Yeah. What was like the area like that you guys grew up in? Or like, especially in the age, the time period, because I mean, you don't have to say how old you are or not, but.
So yeah, I'm 36 right now.
Oh, okay.
And,
So.
at the time when I was there, that part of like Northern Virginia and DC is almost, you wouldn't recognize it if you'd gone back. The area we lived was just this little street that had maybe 3 or 4 new houses on it. Your standard two-story suburban house, but on each side of any of those houses, there's a house that had been there since maybe the 50s or 60s. Run down. They'd been living in the same house forever, and there was nothing else around. It hadn't been built out there yet. And then, even before we left DC when I was 9, so 9 years later, it was already impossible to recognize.
Really?
Yeah. It just was sprung up around the area so fast.
So you moved out of DC area when you were 9.
Mm-hmm.
What was it like as a kid there when when between the age from when you can first remember going outside and hanging out and doing the things on your own without parental guidance to what was life like in the neighborhood?
So yeah, we did. It's probably. I had a bunch of friends that lived a couple streets over. And I mean, even at 4 or 5 years old, we were walking over to our friends' houses. It was not, we didn't have that sort of sheltered, you can't go outside,
right.
Don't talk to strangers. Like that did not fly with us. So we just kind of grew up with a lot of freedom. We had a yard with like woods behind it.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. So I mean, we would explore back there all the time, but it wasn't really all that.
Did you guys have forts back there? Did you build some forts and stuff?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I was a master fort builder.
We were not that great, but it was a fort, so.
Oh yeah, no. When I say master fort builder, I mean it was a ramshackle piece of crap, but I put it together.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we had a few of those then. Yeah, but probably the best toy we had was my parents had they were doing some landscaping, so there's just a big old pile of fill dirt out there, and I can't even tell you how fun it was. You go out there with your toy trucks and stuff. That was the best. That was the best thing I could have had.
Yeah. And that reminds me of there was it was Chevy Chase back when I was a little kid. I'm about 10 years older, a little more than 10 years older than you. But Chevy Chase used to do a segment on Saturday Night Live where he was like a big kid playing in a dirt pile with giant army men and stuff, and it was just this ridiculous skit that they would do. But it reminds me of just how far a dirt pile can go when you're young. Did you have the little plastic green army men and all that stuff?
Yeah.
And,
absolutely.
Oh,
yeah,
how fun
bags
were those?
and bags
Bags
of,
of them.
and anytime we went to the dollar store or something, I was like, oh well, there's another bag. Let's get some more. You can never have too many army men.
No, you can't. No, and I mean, that's when you have a dirt mound like that, and you bring out your box of army men, you're set for about a week and a half.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, that's if you don't lose all the army men in the dirt pile somewhere.
Oh, you're
that
guaranteed
happens.
to lose a few.
Yeah.
I remember having this cousin of mine who had this hedge grove that went right along the side of their house, but it had this weird dip in it. And he had gone back in there and created this entire military terrain with he had bunkers dug out and all of this stuff. And there was a place where you could go under his house that he had dug out, and he had even created it all inside there. So we had this whole entire underground sort of and that was where all of his German soldiers were. That he had, because it was always the Germans fighting the Americans. You had the pack of gray soldiers and the pack of green soldiers.
Yep.
Grays versus greens. Those are great times, man.
Yeah.
So where'd you move after DC?
Moved to Richmond, Virginia.
Okay.
So not very far
I
away.
have family around there.
We were only there for a few years. My parents had a toy store there, which was awesome.
No kidding.
Oh yeah, it was fantastic. We'd go there after work, and of course now I know it was awesome, and at the time we did not know that it was great because I have two brothers.
Yeah. Older, younger?
Younger, yeah. They're twins, 3 years younger than I am. So we go there after school, and we were supposed to help out, which meant okay, you can run the register as long as somebody's not paying with a credit card, because people didn't pay with credit cards at that point still.
Isn't that a trip?
Yeah. But it was supposed to be, we thought it was hard work. It was not hard labor whatsoever. We're working in a toy store when we're not doing anything. Most of the time we're just playing with whatever's, there. So that was...
You're singing old coal miner chanties and stuff,
Yeah.
In the back room going, it's child labor.
Yeah.
In a toy store of all places. I mean, where every kid wants to be.
Exactly, yeah. The worst thing we had to do, like I said, was run the register, or, oh, well, you set up the little train tracks so that it's not destroyed. Oh no, we have to play with the train set. Great, okay.
It's funny though, because if you look at it that way, if you took a kid into a toy store and they're all excited, and they're like, no, you're here to work, it would just completely devastate them.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Work.
But then now I look back and I'm like, man, I got to do so much stuff there that I would never have been able to, we would never have been able to have the money to have those kind of toys around. But having the store meant,
right.
We would be able to, if there was a demonstration or something, we could take part in it. And so we got to do a lot of stuff.
What was your favorite line of toys around that time period?
I was always a Lego fan, but
Me
we didn't
too,
have
man.
Legos at the store. We had Playmobil, which I guess is kind of.
Oh, I was a huge Playmobil
Yeah.
junkie as well.
So
So
we had-
was my son.
The Playmobil castle, the medieval castle. That was it. That was our jam.
You know what I used to do with my Playmobiles and Legos is I'd get my mom's big thing of baby powder that she'd have, and I would make it snow all over, and I'd make a whole winter scenario. And my mom would come into my bedroom, and she's there's just baby powder everywhere. I'd sprinkle some on the carpet, just she's like, what are you doing? I'm like, it's winter. the Battle of Winter.
I mean, there could have been way worse things than baby powder that you could have sprinkled around
That's
the room.
true.
I mean,
That's very true. But me and my sister used to share a room most of our lives, and she wasn't ever very happy about all of my shenanigans in there. I can assure you of that.
probably not. Probably not.
How was your relationship with your brothers growing up?
I mean, we fought. We were brothers, you know?
Yeah.
The problem is when you have three kids, and they're close in age, there's no such thing as even teams, right? It's always going to be 2 against 1. There's no other way that it can break down. And so somebody's always going to be just really getting walloped on.
Yeah.
And we used to get the worst fights we ever got in were over like board games and stuff.
Oh.
I don't think I have to this
Like Monopoly
day.
or something like
Never
that.
finished a game of Monopoly without the board being trashed. It's never happened.
My son Matt, he was just. I can't get him to play Monopoly to save my life anymore because he's 15 now. But when he was a kid, he was an absolute master at. And I can't, I couldn't determine. I'm like, was he sneaking money from the bank or something? Because he notoriously would always win. And there was a part of me that was happy that he was winning because he was loving it so much too, There's nothing worse than, like just destroying your 8-year-old in a game of Monopoly. You know what I mean? That's just cruel and unusual punishment.
Oh, yeah.
You're like, I got to teach you the hard way, son. This is what life's really like.
It's all a Monopoly board.
Play the game of life and you just flick their little car right off the game board. That's what life's really like, son. Get used to it.
Oh yeah, that's happened more than once.
That was the coolest little setup, the game of life. Though. That was fun.
Really was.
How were your parents?
Man,
Are they still together?
yeah, they're still together.
That's fantastic.
They were, you never really understand like what your parents were like until you get older. And as a kid, I thought they were super strict and unfair. And then, by the time I left high school, I was like, they're giant softies. I could have gotten away with so much more shit than I ever tried to.
You were like, darn it!
Yeah. And to this day, like, my mom swears up and down, she's like, you were just smoking pot all the time in high school. I was like, I did not. I swear to God, I didn't touch it until I was in grad school, man. I was 23 before I ever smoked pot. That is not high school. She does not believe me still to this day.
Still to this day?
Yeah, and then I find her pipe in a box downstairs.
Sneaky. Yeah. My mom rails against pot smoking, but she had a boyfriend that was just one of those just really, really dope smoking, like doofuses.
Yeah.
So she associates that with weed now with everything. She's like, it's just gonna make you a big doofus and a dummy, don't you?
Yeah.
And I'm like, tell that to Bob Marley.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, that's the thing, right? That's like the kind of person, like somebody who's gonna smoke that much weed, man, is gonna be that they're gonna find, if it's not weed, it's gonna be something else.
Right.
Right. And that's so, you can blame a stupid plant all you want to,
Yeah.
but alcohol probably is a
Oh, it's
faster, way worse
you.
thing
way
for you.
worse for you. Well, let's put it this way. I went to Jamaica for a 7-day vacation and came back 22 days later. So, the true story of that is that our second day there, we ended up getting a kilo of marijuana from this Rastafarian dude for $80.
Oh my God.
And there was only 4 of us there, and so we decided, well, we can't leave Jamaica until we finish this.
No.
So 7 days went by and we were like, we still had over half, and we're just like, nah, we're staying. And we actually invited more friends down. So a couple other friends flew in to help us finish this thing off. So then it went from 4 to 7 people. And then
Still took you 22 days to finish it.
And it's still, yeah. And we finally, we drove to a bunch of different places in Jamaica. We're dragging this bag around with us everywhere. Just like, it became a burden after a while. It didn't matter how big. At one point, we took all those gigantic, extra wide Rizlas and had made like, it was almost like a placemat size, paper, and had just like put as much in there, and we almost got it rolled. And by then we had this whole crowd of Jamaicans had slowly gathered at this tiki bar we were at doing this. And by the end it was like 14 people around, you know, all watching. And we got it almost rolled, and as soon as we got it licked, the backside of it went boom, and busted open, and everybody was like, no! It was hilarious, man. It was hilarious.
Yeah.
Do you think that having your parents together, having a solid mother and father figure who were on the same team, do you think that was a benefit for you in life?
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's no doubt. You know, it's, you know, like I said, you don't know how good you had it as a kid until you get older and you can see that you got to have some perspective or like something to compare it to. If my parents hadn't been on the same page and hadn't been, you know, both of them, you know, they wish they had pushed us a little bit harder to, you know, do a little bit more. But at the same time, I can never say that I've, like, now looking back, I can't say that I ever was, you know, unloved or abused or neglected in any way, shape, or form. And it wasn't even overbearing. So
yeah, that's beautiful. That's you know, with the divorce rate as it is here in this country and all over the world in many respects, it's very rare to meet somebody whose parents are still together. We just did an interview with a girl named Brianna from Twitter, who her parents are still together. They actually were there because she's staying at their house right now while she builds a house out in the countryside, and it's just great to see them still together like that. You know, I mean, I just love that. Me and my ex are divorced now, so my kids are, you know, afflicted with the same situation I was, and you know, I don't know if I perpetuated that because I didn't understand what relationships were. But would you think that seeing a successful relationship growing up has assisted you in being in a relationship, or is it still just as hard as I think it is?
No, I think it is as hard as you think it is. You know, you can see a successful one all you want to, but I mean, it took me until I was, you know, over 30 years old to find somebody that I felt comfortable marrying and spending like a ton of time with.
A ton of time.
Yeah, and you know, now that we're all stuck at home right now, it's like a super ton of time, and I don't think I could have spent that time with any of my exes.
Right.
So I think you gotta have that experience. You gotta fail at a relationship before you can ever succeed. Like if you, man.
Well, then I have a lot of success coming. I can tell you that.
There you go. You got experience, you know. But I mean, it's expecting it to be easy the first time. I probably expected it to be easy way too many times before.
Right. Yeah, I think that's. Yeah, I think I'm with you on that. That's very similar. I didn't really. My problem was I didn't think about it really that much at all. I was like, oh, it just is this thing that's happening.
Yeah.
And I wasn't really putting much into it either way. I was just kind of letting it which is not. It might be a successful method, but for me, it always ended in everything going off the rails. But also, I grew up in Hollywood, and it was just a much crazier lifestyle out there, and a lot more flows and different things. Speaking of that, though, when you were in high school and you're like, okay, I gotta, were you already on board with like, I gotta do something with my life, I gotta figure something out, I gotta have a path?
I thought I had a path. I thought I had a plan. And you know, from that, you know, by the time I was in high school, I was like, all right, I'm gonna go to college, I'm gonna go to grad school, I'm gonna get a PhD in political science, and I'm gonna go be a professor. And man, I'll be damned if I didn't get real far in that. I got to the point where I'm in grad school and I am basically what you would call ABD, all but dissertation. And I just quit.
Really?
I just quit. And I left. I'd had some issues with alcohol.
Sure, yeah, I have to.
I could have partied with the best of them.
Yeah. I was like the Tin Man. I was always oiling up my elbows for.
Yeah.
Trigger.
Yeah, I mean it was bad, and so I left grad school and I moved to St. Louis. My family was there at the time, and basically just kind of had to rebuild my life to decide what I wanted to do. started back in retail and food service.
Man, so how many years were you in college before you hit the ejector seat?
I graduated undergrad in 3 years, 2 years to get a master's, and then 4 years post-grad working on the PhD, so 9 years.
And then you just went, eject!
Yeah.
Did it feel good in a way, too, though?
No, it felt
okay.
awful at the time.
Oh, wow.
It felt awful at the time. It felt like failing. And now...
That's really tough, especially if you're already kind of drinking a lot, or binge drinking or whatever it is, and then to have a moment like that occur, even if it's if you're choosing to do it yourself, not like you got thrown out against your will,
right?
But still, that can be personally devastating. What did you find that you had to do to overcome that, to get back to some semblance of normalcy?
So, I mean, at the time, I basically had to go dry. I mean, totally dry, and be physically in a place where I didn't know anybody except for, family.
Right.
St. Louis was kind of like that. I mean, I had some friends there that I'd gone to high school with, but I hadn't hung out with them in at least a decade. So there wasn't. I had to be away from all of the people and all of the places and all of the things that had gotten me to where I was in the first place, and just eject all of that garbage. There are not many people from grad school. I mean, I spent 6 or 7 years with some of these people, and I barely talk to them now.
Yeah.
And it's for the best. I don't think I could go back to that.
No, it sounds exhausting, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, the amount of pressure I can imagine you were under from the amount of studying you had to do, coupled with, a healthy social life, so to speak. I would imagine that you were probably pretty raw, pretty threadbare.
Yeah.
By the end, huh?
Yeah, I can remember a time when I was a graduate assistant, so I had an office at the university when I was working on my PhD, and one of the professors comes in, and I worked with him on a poll. We did a political poll, and he walked in and he asked me a question, and I don't think I even heard the question. To this day, I couldn't tell you what the question was, and I just broke down in tears. I'm just like sobbing uncontrollably in front of this guy, and he has no idea what to do, and I couldn't even tell you what triggered it.
That's an intense amount of pressure that's lying under the surface. I've had those moments too.
Yeah.
I've had those moments happen to me, even in public and stuff. I had a full-on breakdown like that in Italy once, and because my life was just falling apart around me. It seemed like it is now, but I'm handling it differently. But this was in my late 20s, and all kinds of shifts and changes were happening, and I was in Italy. Oddly, I'm sitting here complaining about stuff, and when I was in Italy, and that sounds real tough, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, I mean, you even asked, like, did I have an easy upbringing, a middle class upbringing?
Yeah.
I did, and I don't honestly. I know I've had it easy. So, but maybe that's part of the problem, right? Is people sometimes assume like, oh, you've had it so easy. You should be able to handle this stuff when that stress gets
Sometimes
that way.
It can be worse,
But
actually.
Sometimes it can be worse. Everybody's going to handle their stress differently.
Yeah.
And even with all the advantages that I had growing up, I didn't have the resources or the wherewithal to handle that at the time.
Right.
And I don't even know how bad it would have been if I hadn't had the resources.
Thinking of that, like, what if you hadn't hit the ejector seat at that time, if you had just muscled through and pushed through, do you think that you would have been doing what you like to do?
I would have been doing what I thought I liked to do.
Right.
I don't think I would have actually enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I think I would have been miserable. I think you know, everybody complains about retail. I think I would have been happier in retail than I would have been in academia.
Well, it's certainly a kind of a nice social world, you know, retail is, and I would imagine less compartmentalized in a way.
Yeah.
Even though everybody has their positions in retail, but you
But at the same time, right, you walk away from a job in retail, like you go home at the end of the day, you're done. You're not working.
gotcha.
But academia is one of those things where you can't necessarily you're never turned off.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's one thing that you know, my dad's awesome, but he doesn't turn it off. He's always working.
Yeah.
You know, it's 4th of July tomorrow, and he's probably going to be working. And it's been that
That's
way
his
for a
thing,
long time.
yeah.
He you know,
Yeah.
and it's great. I mean, he worked enough to provide for us growing up.
Yeah.
But one thing that I learned is I can't do that. I can't be that person. I need to have that, like, I go home at the end of the day.
So which state were you in college at? Was that in Virginia as well, or?
So I went to University of Akron in Ohio for
Oh,
undergrad.
okay. Oh, that's where the AA was founded.
Yeah.
That's so funny. It was right around the
Man,
corner. It was
so
right there.
Founders Day, yeah. So funny you bring that up. So like I was there for one Founders Day, and it's a really kind of like a sad story in a way, because you know you get a lot of people coming in from all across the country to come to Founders Day in Akron, and it is the most profitable day of the year for bars in Akron.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, so everybody goes there to go out. They're like, that's it, I'm done. I can't take it anymore.
So many people fall out of the program on that, like that
On that day.
On that day.
Yeah.
And it's like, man, and at the time, like I hadn't been drinking at that time yet. I didn't really know anything about, you know, about the pull of
Yeah.
alcohol yet.
Yeah, totally. I mean, you know, I've been to AA meetings, stuff like that. I mean, some of them have been because of DUI per se. So you know, I've definitely spent some time in the meetings and everything, and I know from friends who go to meetings now. The last 6 months has been devastating on the AA community, not being able to have you know, but. Oddly enough, you know, I know a couple of people who had found some online chat groups. So if anybody out there is having some issues like this and are feeling really, really stressed, there is actually some really great online chat groups for Alcoholics Anonymous, and that's been the food's here.
Yeah.
But that's been a you know, a gift to someone who's very close to me, who, you know, was like.
Yeah.
Just biting her nails, you know, at a certain point, like you know, and then found this group and was like, oh, you know, and I think that you know, socializing is an important factor in sanity and keeping sane, and you know, I'm a very isolationist type of person myself. I don't mind being alone for long periods of time, but that said, so when you left college, where did you go to from there?
I went to grad school, so I stayed at Akron to get a master's degree.
Yeah.
Then went to Iowa, the University of Iowa in Iowa City.
Nice place. Huh?
It's a beautiful college town. There's not a lot to do there.
Right.
It's a great
You can only yell "Go Cornhuskers" so many times, I guess.
If you yell "Go Cornhuskers" in
is that
Iowa,
wrong?
you're going to get.
Oh wait, where are they from? I don't know.
That's Nebraska.
Oh, Nebraska. I don't know sports at all.
No.
So.
It's just funny because like the Hawkeyes and Huskers are just like they hate each other.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah. But
it's like the who were they? It was the Saxons and the against the Danes.
Yeah. Yeah, basically.
Yeah, totally. So when you left college though, and you were like, that's it, I'm done, and I mean, where did you go to from there? Did you go back home to the parents for a little bit and just?
Yeah, no, I went back to live with my parents. I literally was that person living in my parents' basement, which apparently for my generation was not all that strange. It felt strange. It felt like you were like losing at life doing that, but it apparently was way more common. And You know, I was working at Old Navy, and then I tore my ACL. So no insurance.
Working
no,
at Old
I was
Navy?
playing soccer.
Oh, okay. I was gonna
Yeah, yeah.
say you're like reaching to put that shoe on that top shelf. Ah, my leg.
It's the only job I've ever been fired from is
Oh,
Old
no.
Navy, because I tore my ACL and I called them and I was like, "You gotta, I can't work. You know, I gotta find a new job. So just take me off the schedule." They called me like 3 months later. They're like, "You haven't shown up for any of your shifts." I'm like, "You've been scheduling me for shifts for 3
What?
months?" They're like, "Yeah, we're gonna have to fire you." I was like, "Okay." Ouch, I guess.
After you had already turned in your resignation.
Oh yeah, I had another job where I didn't have to like lift stuff already.
Yeah.
I was like, how did
Still in the retail sector? Like
yeah,
you
yeah. I was working on selling watches and working on watches.
Yeah.
You know, there's not a whole lot of lifting for that.
We'll just wait for that. Nice.
That trunk sounds great.
Yeah, it's right. It sounds better on the inside of the car. I used to have the bumps like that back in the day, you
Yeah.
know, and mine was just insane. I mean, if you sat in my back seat, you'd be talking like that. It was nuts. So then that transition. I mean, how did you overcome? This is these are the moments that I get really interested in. Is how did you overcome that? You know, that defeated state, living in mom's basement, working these jobs, going, how did I get, because I've been in the same exact situations myself, you know,
Yeah.
like literally the exact same situations of like, how have I gotten myself to here and how do I get to there, you know?
Think that really what I had to do and was, you know, when you thought that something that you had something you wanted to do and that was what you were going to do, and you've done that for almost a decade, right? You got to find something, whatever it is that you're doing. So for me, it was working on fixing watches and selling watches at
That's
a little
cool.
kiosk in the mall, and make it yours. Like, you know, really throw yourself into it, so that you see that you can do something else. That
Now,
you're not a one-trick pony.
Were you repairing like the mechanical watches, or was it more like battery replacement, these kind of things, or?
So yeah, I mean, it kind of depends.
Because I love
on-
watches. I mean, especially old ones. You know?
Yeah. So we kind of did a little bit of all of that. You know, I'm not going to touch a Rolex, but you know, I mean, I was able to do a lot of different things, and you know, most of the people who were working there, it was basically batteries and cleaning.
Gotcha.
But we were able to do things like, you know, replace the crystal on the front, or you know, the more you got into it, the more you could be able to do. And you know, I got to the point where I was pretty comfortable with almost anything that would go wrong with most battery operated watches.
Right.
But you know, anything that was purely mechanical, nah, I'm not gonna.
Yeah, some of
not
those.
gonna mess with it.
Yeah, some of the inner workings of those mechanical watches are. I mean, they're jaw dropping in
Oh, yeah.
the intricacy and the complexity.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if you're familiar, if you're into like the weird history stuff and all that, but they found that one old. It was it was like in the bottom of the ocean at a shipwreck, and it was
Antikythera.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, and and they finally were able to do that special X-ray type of thing of it where they could see the whole thing and then they could pull the whole thing apart, and it's this crazy mechanical device which actually follows all the revolutions of all of the planets and the sun and everything else. I mean, it was like a walking observatory.
Yeah. Like
A mechanical one.
Yeah.
It's
And
mad.
it's old. Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
Mad.
it's incredible. Like, I got one.
It makes me it does make me wonder, because I like that kind of stuff, like, you know, ancient history stuff, especially the megalithic society stuff and all of that. And it, you know, when you come across things like that, I do think like, what, you know, are they hiding a complete and total, you know, modern advanced society from us that existed? 10,000 years
You
ago
mean
or
like
something,
spaceships
or-
over a pyramid?
That was yeah, but that's a great movie. That's the original Stargate movie was rad.
Yeah, it was.
And they actually sold that. I mean, that scene, I was like, I could see that's what the pyramids are for. Little landing pads for weird shaped spaceships. Okay,
yeah.
I'll buy it. So that getting back to that, like what you know, what was the drive? Like when did you finally get out of the parents' place and back into your own space and your own world and your own life again?
Man, I that didn't happen until I moved here to Austin. I had a job working for the Texas legislature
Oh, right on.
and doing like their data research kind of stuff.
And you're currently working in that field or that or like in that kind of okay. So
Yeah.
that sounds like a solid career that you can have some kind of security in.
Yeah, but it took about 4 years to get to that point.
Yeah.
From when I left, from when I left the grad school to the point when I, moved to Austin, felt like I was on my own again. It was 4 years.
That's fast. That's a fast turnaround, to be honest. I have to commend you on that.
It doesn't
because
feel fast at the time.
It doesn't feel fast at
Yeah.
the time, but when I have heard of similar stories, I mean, some never leave the house. They just
That's true.
They're like, I'll just stay here.
Yeah, it certainly feels easy to do that.
Well, especially when you still have, because moms are always going to be moms.
Oh, yeah.
So you're going to get get some breakfast made, some different things. I mean, that's just, my mom loves to cook for me, which I should probably move in with her, how much weight I've lost over the last 6 months. But that's really was just due to stress. So coming down here was really like the best move you could make.
Yes.
And you applied online and all of that?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a good thing for people to know who feel like they're stuck someplace, that to think outside the box, not be afraid to move to a different city to try something new.
When I moved here, I have a little tiny Hyundai Accent hatchback.
Yeah.
I moved everything I owned in that car except for one box of clothes that I shipped. Like you can do it. You can leave your comfort zone physically if you can just get, like, you just need a little bit saved up, you just need a little bit of reserves, and you can do it. And sometimes that's the best thing that you can do.
And well, having also being employed, having work, something that you're doing gives us a real sense of personal integrity. I feel like, and when work is stripped away from you, it's I know for me, I become not a shell, because I have a lot of hobbies and stuff that I do, but I have to survive and I have to pay bills and I have to do these things, and not being able to provide, especially for my kids. If I didn't have kids and an ex-wife and all that stuff, I really wouldn't care too much about about much of anything. But that they are so senior in importance to me, to make sure that they're okay. That definitely rides hard on me. I know that must have been tough in that transitional period for you. The 4 years what was it that made you? That's actually interesting. And within that 4 year period, like, how did you find the job that took you out of there? Like, what was it that propelled you into seeking that out?
So by that time, right, I'd probably applied for 200 jobs online through various means, and the biggest lesson that I learned there was the shotgun approach. Like, that doesn't work. Don't just send out 200 mass ones. You're not going to get anything out of that. But the moment that I started, actually putting, it's going to take you 10 times as long to put together an application for a job if you do it the right way, but you're more than 10 times as likely to get a call back from it.
So that's actually really great advice. Instead of just shotgunning your resume out there and everything, what would you maybe suggest? Maybe like boil it down to the top 5 that you would want most, and really spend a maximum amount of time on those.
Yeah.
And then worry about the trickle down effect later.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, if you're gonna get, there would be times when I'd be looking for a job and I'd almost get the butterflies. I'm like, oh my god, this feels like a good one. That's the time. That's the one you want to spend the time on.
Yeah.
That's the one.
There you go. So remember the butterflies. Remember the butterflies. And then you know, to wrap it up, what, you know, being on this exact subject, you know, what would be your advice to people out there that are, you know, struggling and trying to, you know, figure out the same thing you did? What's the advice that you would give them that they can take home and sit with?
I think that you don't want to pigeonhole yourself. It's easy enough to say, like, well, I failed at this one thing, but I just got to keep working at that one thing. You don't have to do that. You know, take the time to see that you're not a one-trick pony. You're not just that guy that went to grad school. You're not just that person working at the grocery store. You can take the time to change to add to your skill set. I think. And I think that's, take the opportunity in every job you have to take on new skills and take on new responsibility, because that's how you're going to move yourself. That's how you move yourself forward.
Yeah, that is fantastic advice. That is fantastic advice. My man Nathan, Texas, onward and upward. I really, really appreciate the time.
Absolutely,
and,
man.
It's a beautiful and inspiring story.
Thank you.
And I think that what you've shared will be inspiring to other people as well.
Yeah, I'm glad.
Yeah. Right on, my man.
Thanks.
Love it. Love America Tour.